Hello YouTube, my name is William James. I'm currently coming to the end of Cherry Vanilla, and all of my links are in the description below. So I want to give a shout out to a channel called The Sturgeon Piper. He is a fantastic YouTube pipe community channel. Talks about everything from pipes to literature to theology, and he's really opened my eyes to a lot of books, and although I'm not a Christian, I do find a lot of the theology discussions fascinating. So that's The Sturgeon Piper. Link down below. All of you. So first things first, like, subscribe for more, and I do videos usually twice a week, but sometimes more, but I want to talk about The Hobbit. The Hobbit is a classic children's fantasy, and you follow Bilbo Baggins, who gets tricked by Gandalf to go on an epic adventure with a bunch of dwarves and reclaim the mountains. It's episodic by nature and it's charming. So each chapter was designed to be read to a child each night and have a conclusion, lesson learned. It's the first book set within the Middle-earth world that Tolkien created. And although it does have some elements of Lord of the Rings stuff in there, very little of it comes from ends up in the Lord of the Rings. So we're now at the end of the bowl. Corn cob, by the way. I like cobs, they're nice pipes, but yeah, it's definitely one of those charming little books that just takes you on this adventure. It's definitely a children's book, and you can definitely see the poise is very simple, it's straightforward writing, it's very sweet, it's charming, and it deals with kind of that charming children's book, for want of a better word. You will find common elements amongst the Lord of the Rings, a certain ring, Gollum, some characters, but it has very little to do with the Lord of the Rings, and unlike the film adaptation that forced a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff into it where it shouldn't have been there, really. This is just, because obviously being written before, it's charming, it's sweet, it's funny, and going back to this book was just such a dream. It was such a sweet book to read. One of the things that I do find is that this is like the granddaddy of epic fiction, in the sense that it was probably epic fantasy, I should say, and it's probably one of those where it will linger forever. The Hobbit some people find it difficult to read, and I have no clue why, and I've never quite worked out that method. That The Hobbit is just charming, and a book that I think will linger, that I want to read to my children if I ever have any. You know, I want it to be that book, and I want it to be the memories that I have of it, of my grandmother reading it to me. It's simple, it's fun, there are eagles, but it's brilliantly executed, and one of those books that will make you think as well, because again, sometimes the unlikely hero, the adventurer, someone learning a lesson, and that's what this book is. I've been very lucky to go to the pub where C.S. Lewis and Tolkien spent a lot of time, and I absolutely adored that pub. It was so sweet. And I think on my channel somewhere there's some video of it. It's not very good, it's quite an old one, but it's somewhere, and if it's on there I will link it. But it's definitely one of those moments in history, and cemented, although not, I'll put it this way, it wasn't the book that was my gateway drug into fantasy, that was the Aragon series. This, forgive the neighbours doing something in the backyard, that was the Aragon series, but it's definitely a book that holds nostalgia, it holds a lot of sweetness to it, and it just makes me think of my grandmother. It does. The Hobbit, I think, is one of those little books that is nice to revisit, and I've revisited the physical book, and I've revisited the audiobook, and just kind of going into that again. So I'm on my winter reread of Lord of the Rings, so I always start with The Hobbit. So there we are. It's always interesting because I think we do have I think there is some nostalgia blindness with it. I think it will remain one of those true children's classics. And I think it's an important book, and actually I think as an adult you can read it and enjoy it. And it's a nice gateway into Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's writing style. So tell me what you think in the comments section below, and all of my links are in the description. So thank you for listening to this little ramble about hobbits.